Hello and welcome to the English Podcast Lab. I'm Mike, and we love to really dig into a topic here, and today is no different. We're going to be talking about procrastination.
That's right.
And procrastination. To help me do that, we've got Sarah here.
Hi, everyone.
Now, Sarah, I think this is a topic that is going to resonate with a lot of people.
Definitely. I think pretty much anyone listening can relate to this in some way.
Absolutely. And we joke about it, but it's actually kind of a serious topic.
It is, yeah.
And some research suggests that 95% of people procrastinate.
Wow. That's almost all of us.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
So it's clearly not just a small handful of people who are just lazy. It's something deeper.
Right. It's something that's kind of built into us as humans, I think. It's this desire to avoid things that are unpleasant, even if we know logically that maybe we shouldn't.
Right.
It's going to cause problems later.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, it's that thing of like you've got a deadline coming up, but instead of working on it, you're cleaning the house or
you're watching a show.
Yeah. You're rewatching a show for the 10th time or something like that.
Exactly. And it's all driven by fear a lot of the time. Fear of making mistakes, or even sometimes fear of success.
Oh, fear of success. Now, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Why would anyone be afraid of success?
Well, sometimes, deep down, maybe we don't believe we deserve success, or we're afraid of the changes that it might bring. And so we kind of self-sabotage and procrastinate as a way of staying in our comfort zone.
I see. So it's almost like a defense mechanism.
Yeah, in a way.
So we've talked about why we procrastinate. It's not just laziness. It's this much deeper thing. But how do we actually stop? Knowing why doesn't necessarily make it go away.
Exactly. And thankfully, there are lots of strategies that we can use. The first step is really just being self-aware, recognizing your patterns and what your triggers are.
Okay, so what are some telltale signs that someone's a procrastinator?
Well,
or that they're procrastinating, I should say.
Yeah. Are you filling your day with low priority tasks instead of tackling the big important ones? Are you constantly rereading emails but not making any decisions? Are you constantly getting distracted?
Yep.
Those are all kind of classic signs.
So it's about really understanding and recognizing those patterns in yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, people talk about time management a lot, and I've always thought of that as being like a really rigid schedule.
Yeah.
But I've heard that can actually backfire.
It definitely can. For a lot of people, a rigid schedule just creates more pressure and anxiety, and it makes them want to procrastinate even more.
So instead of having this, huge to-do list that just looks so overwhelming, you're never going to get to it.
Yeah. Exactly. Break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Small steps. Big wins. I love that.
Exactly.
And there's a great example of this. The author Anthony Trollope, he wrote over 40 books.
Wow.
And he did this by working in just 15-minute increments.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And he would focus on just writing 250 words in each session.
So he was really applying that principle.
Yeah, and it worked for him, clearly.
Yeah.
So it's just about that consistency and just doing a little bit at a time.
Right. And each little win, kind of builds momentum and makes the process less daunting.
It's almost like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
The more you do, the more you want to do. Now, there's this other thing I read about called temptation bundling. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah. Temptation bundling. It's a great strategy.
Tell me more about it.
Well, it's basically pairing something that you really enjoy with a task that you've been putting off.
Okay, so for example, I only let myself watch my favorite TV show while I'm doing the ironing.
Exactly. Okay. Or maybe you only listen to a certain podcast while you're exercising.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So it's about kind of tricking your brain into enjoying the task a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Hacking your brain's reward system.
Now, what about visualization and commitment devices?
Oh, those are great tools as well.
Okay, so tell me, what is a commitment device?
Well, it's basically a pre-planned action that you take to make it harder to procrastinate in the future.
So it's like setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're trying to eat healthier, you might get rid of all the junk food in your house.
Right.
Or if you're trying to focus on work, you might delete all the distracting apps from your phone.
Okay, so it's about removing the temptation.
Exactly.
Now, I read about this thing called the Seinfeld strategy.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, it's all about creating a visual chain of success. So each day you complete a task, you mark it on a calendar, and you don't want to break that chain.
So it's almost like a visual reminder of your progress. Okay. And that can be motivating.
That can be very motivating.
So it's kind of like, you don't want to let yourself down.
Right.
You see that streak and you want to keep it going.
Exactly. And it makes those small actions feel more significant as well.
That's really interesting. And then there's this other thing called the 2-minute rule.
Oh, yeah. The 2-minute rule is a great one.
Tell me more.
Well, it's all about making it as easy as possible to start a new habit.
Okay.
So the idea is that any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to begin.
So you're basically setting a really low bar for yourself.
Exactly.
You can't say no.
Right? It's all about removing that initial resistance.
I love that. Because, we often talk about how the hardest part is just starting.
It really.
Once you get started, the momentum builds.
Absolutely.
But it's that initial push to get going. That's the tough part.
It is the tough part.
But the 2-minute rule is a great way to overcome that.
It is. It's funny, though, because, we've been talking about all the ways to stop procrastinating. But isn't there like a good side to it sometimes?
Oh, really? I'm all ears on this one.
Yeah, there's something called like active procrastination, where you're delaying a task, but you're doing it strategically.
So it's not just, being lazy. It's like you're choosing to do it.
Exactly. You might be putting something off to prioritize something else that's more urgent.
Oh, so it's almost like a calculated decision.
Yeah, and sometimes it can even lead to better results.
Really? How so?
Well, sometimes stepping away from a task can give your subconscious mind a chance to work on it in the background.
Like when you're stuck on a problem and then the solution just pops into your head while you're doing something totally unrelated.
Exactly. There's actually a name for that. It's called the Zeigarnik effect.
Wow.
I never knew that.
Yeah, our brains tend to keep working on unfinished tasks even when we're not consciously thinking about them. That's fascinating. So you're saying a little bit of procrastination can actually boost creativity?
It can. And sometimes that extra time also allows you to gather more information or gain the fresh perspective.
Okay, so procrastination isn't always the enemy.
Right. It's about being intentional. There's a difference between active procrastination, which is a deliberate strategy, and passive procrastination, which is just giving in to that urge to avoid something.
So it's about being honest with yourself about why you're putting something off.
Exactly. And if you're constantly procrastinating without a good reason, that's when it can become a problem.
Because I've heard that chronic procrastination can really affect your mental health.
It definitely can. It can lead to increased stress, anxiety, even depression.
It makes sense if you're always feeling overwhelmed and behind. It's going to take a toll on your well-being.
Yeah, it becomes a vicious cycle. And it affects all areas of your life, not just your work.
So it's really important to address it and develop those healthy coping strategies.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about some practical steps.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to break the cycle?
Well, we've already discussed some great strategies. Breaking down tasks, setting realistic goals using temptation bundling, and commitment devices.
Those are all great starting points. But what about our environment? Does that play a role?
Absolutely. Having a workspace that's free from distractions is key.
So no more working on the couch with the TV on in the background.
Probably not the best idea. Even if you think you're good at multitasking, our brains actually aren't wired for it.
Right.
When we try to do multiple things at once, we end up doing each task poorly.
And that just leads to more stress in the end.
Exactly. So having a dedicated workspace, even if it's just a small corner, can make a big difference.
It's about creating that space where you can really focus.
Right. And minimizing distractions is crucial. So turn off those notifications, put your phone on silent, or use a website blocker.
Okay, so it's about creating that little bubble of productivity.
Yeah.
Now, what about having a routine? Does that help?
It can be very helpful. There's a method called the Ivy Lee method, which is a really simple but effective way to structure your day.
Tell me more about that.
Sure. So basically, you write down the 6 most important tasks you want to accomplish the next day. And then you rank them in order of importance.
So you're basically prioritizing your to-do list.
Yeah. And then you focus on completing the first task before moving on to the second.
So it's about eliminating that decision fatigue.
Exactly. Because when you know what to tackle first, you don't waste time trying to figure it out.
I like that. It's about creating a system.
Right. And we talked about the Seinfeld strategy earlier, using those visual cues to track your progress.
Yeah, that's a great way to tap into our brain's reward system.
Right. Seeing that chain of successes can be really motivating.
It's a visual reminder that you're moving towards your goals.
Exactly. And sometimes that's all it takes to keep going.
You know, something that's really resonated with me through all of this is the importance of self-compassion.
Oh, I agree.
Because, you know, we often beat ourselves up when we procrastinate, which just makes us feel worse.
Yeah, it's like we're adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. Instead, we should be focusing on understanding our triggers and finding healthy ways to cope.
Absolutely. And we need to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Because those small wins build confidence and keep us motivated.
Exactly. And remember, procrastination is a journey, not a destination. There will be days when we slip up.
We're all human, right?
Exactly. But the key is to be kind to yourself. Get back up and keep moving forward, right? It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
You know, and that's so important, especially these days when we're constantly bombarded with messages about, you know, instant success and like effortless productivity.
It's true. Yeah, it's like you're supposed to be hustling all the time.
Right. It's that whole hustle culture thing.
Yeah, and if you're not, then you're failing.
Exactly.
But the reality is, you know, we're not robots.
We're not.
We all have limits. We all have struggles.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, the best thing to do is just step away for a bit.
Absolutely.
You know, take a break. Give yourself some space.
Yeah, give your brain a rest.
Yeah, because if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, you're not going to be able to think clearly anyway.
No, you're not. You're going to be making decisions from a place of stress, and that's not usually a good thing.
Right. So sometimes the smartest thing you can do is actually just step away from the task.
Step away and come back to it later with fresh eyes.
Yeah. Or even just, you know, take a walk, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
Listen to some music.
Meditate. Do something to just kind of reset.
Right. Because it's not about avoiding the work. It's about managing your energy.
Exactly. Finding ways to be more productive in the long run.
Well, Sarah, this has been such a fascinating conversation.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of procrastination and how to deal with it.
Me too.
So for everyone listening, I hope you feel the same way. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more.
Yes, please do.
And, you know, leave a comment below.
Yeah.
Let us know, what are your strategies for overcoming procrastination? We'd love to hear from you.
That's right.
Until next time, happy productivity.